In fact, Sanjay has brought out a interesting dimension to the whole discussion by adding a term called process leakage. So, the process leakage, and the other aspect which he brought about was in terms of maybe it comes from our inclusive character of Indians, basically, that basically operators don't distinguish between, there's no class kind of a thing. Okay, I am servicing which kind of a client. Everybody is running from A to Z. So that throws open, that brings a very interesting dimension to the whole discussion. And I would like now to just ask Dinesh, from the technology point of view, from the processes point of view of what Sanjay just highlighted, do you think that in India, these kind of process leakages that has happened because, this explosion happened in an unplanned manner, it happened, means the market grew suddenly because of certain factors, I would say calling party pays implementation of that, which basically led to the boom. And since the market was large, untapped, it was a voice hungry market, so the race was basically to capture these customers at that point of time, which led that I would say a front-end race led to the negligence of the back-end aspect, which has created the thing. And has the time come now to basically focus on them?
Rishi, you are right to an extent, because see what happens in an industry. I mean, ironically, I was speaking in Delhi last week in one of the conferences around infrastructure. And I was saying that there is only one infrastructure which has come up quite well in the country, which is the telecom infrastructure. Everything else is actually in shambles. Now, the point is, when you grow at the percentage levels you are growing, the customer acquisition, the way you are doing it, it is quite natural that you will get into what Sanjay was saying, jugaad, right? That's what we are pretty good at. So the frugal engineering mentality that we have, we say, okay, let's do this first and then we will see the consequence later. Now, like we was talking about, every bit of activity other than basically the core telecom, even in some cases, even the core telecom backbone was outsourced, every activity is outsourced. Now, when Rajan was just saying that the cost of acquisition of a customer is around 150 rupees. But the point is, the person who has actually come to meet me, I would not even want him to come into my house. That's a kind of capability that you have recruited and maintained using the 150 rupees. Now, the process leakage actually happens not because of any lack of intent. It happens because when you actually start joining the dots in a process, then you realize that there is a huge path that you can take. Most of the telecom companies that I have worked with are also doing process audit to make sure that everything is fine. But the fundamental funny part of that is that they do it on a vertical fashion. So they take a sales process and say, okay, fine, this is point number 1, point number 2. This goes to a DSA, fine, that's fine. Then point number 3, point number 4, point number 5. Now, when we show to the organization that when you do an horizontal slicing of the process, then suddenly you realize that in a lot of cases the maker checker doesn't exist. Nobody knows what is supposed to be the service delivered and what is supposed to be the money charged. Most of the cases I have seen one thing, that there is an unwritten rule which says that if a customer complains, reverse the charge. Just do it. And people who know it very clearly, they will actually go and complain saying that I never asked for it and get it reversed. I mean, I was just telling that, I was showing to Rishi a series of SMS which says reverse, 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 reversed. So kind of thing. See, the basic problem is you are too busy in acquiring customers. We never looked inward and figured out how it is, because we always believe that the volume out there is so big that we will be able to tide over the crisis. Like in a banking setup, we call us NPS, right? If my revenue goes above a particular number, then I don't really care about my NPA because that will take care of it. And there are, interestingly, I think the same model is applied by the telecom. I don't know whether it's by intent. When the NPA in a bank goes about a particular percentage of the turnover of the bank, the bank actually increases the turnover by distributing more risk. So if in your case, if your intent is to make more customers and plug that percentage down, I think we are living in fool's island at this point of time. There are enough process leakage, and like I said, unless you really get into the testing mechanism. If they say we don't make money out of this, so why should you check? Fine. So unless you sit down and start thinking in a completely different manner, I mean, if you assume that there is no regulator out there who is trying to control you, but if you want to make your business up and running, what is it that you need to do? I think the answer is very much in front of you. Otherwise, it's going to just collapse. I mean, it is going to be in a loop, because when we started looking at the telecom market, even in 2001, 1990s, people used to say, irrespective of how many number of players are going to be there, in the end, it is going to be 2 or 3 players. So that's going to be the consolidation that happens. So we are nowhere different from what we were 15 years back. And like Sanjay said, even in my case, the customer experience has not changed upward. It only went down in the last 10 years. So then obviously there's an issue there.
Thanks, Dinesh. Rajan, I would like to bring you at this point of time, meaning by both Sanjay and Dinesh, the highlighting of these process leakages and all this thing, meaning there is some kind of obviously there's a lot which the operators have given, a lot the telecom revolution has given to the country, but do you think it's the kind of the competitiveness in the market, the regulatory charges and the low tariffs at which you all are, and lack of consolidation, which has pushed you all to this corner, and like once these issues start falling in place, these things will automatically be taken care by the operators? How do you?
Keep in mind is that we have, on a per subscriber basis, one of the lowest amount of spectrums anywhere in the world. All right, so we are asked to put 50 pounds in a 5-pound bag and say, hey, listen, why are you surprised when the bag leaks, breaks, can't bear the load? And you continue to put additional impediments to the availability of spectrum and the cost of that spectrum. So I think from a policy perspective, we have to stop speaking out of both sides of our mouth. If we want consumer experience and good consumer experience, then please make the bandwidth available, right? Because again, please, if you look at NTP 2012, by 2020, we are supposed to penetrate 100% of the rural marketplace. Right, so these are impairments that that are pushed on us by way of regulatory impairments. We have coverage requirements. If you look at the NIA document, which is there for the bid for 1800, the moment I acquire one spectrum, 1 megahertz of 1800 spectrum, right, as a incumbent, I will have to increase my penetration, all right, to 50% of the Gram Panchayats and block headquarters. Us in this responsibility, right? So we are into trading, and we've given away some of the core responsibilities, and we're learning how to live in this environment. Before, when we were a small player in the global marketplace, we had the luxury of learning from everybody else. Today, I'm the second largest market in the world. I no longer have the luxury of learning from everyone else. I have to bear the pain of being in the forefront of this marketplace. This is fine. We absolutely need to. But the question is, as you push the frontier forward, we've continued to outsource, and we have to get better as to how we partner with all of our various stakeholders in this outsourced paradigm where we can make it work.
I agree with what Rajan says, meaning obviously his dilemma is that, it's like a owner of a hotel who's always facing all 12 months busy season. Obviously, when has he time to renovate? He can't say that, okay, 2 months is I won't take bookings because I need to put processes in place. So somewhere like...
I get it. So I can share a few experiences of the industry I represent, and that'll give you a little bit of a perspective of what we are talking about here. So I belong to electronic manufacturing industry, and if you would know, this industry survives on 2% net income. We manufacture about 2 billion units of any kind of electronics for any OEM you can imagine, and we survive on 2% net income, 26% return on invested capital. EPS is in the $15 billion company up, growing for since 2008. And it gets compared with Apple and Cigna, so on and so forth. The point is, we have the same problem which Rajan just mentioned in terms of volume expansion, in terms of what market we can go and service, in terms of how we are going to go and address these problems in each of, not just India, 62 countries. Now we can sit back and say, well guys, we're not going to follow the process because we have to go and manufacture 20,000 more units in this month, or we can step back and say, the only way for me to go and do that stuff is to build the process, build it right the first time, and follow that process. We were just about a couple of days ago, just to give you a small experience. So I'll just multiply the problem of the Indian operators by a scale of maybe 10 times. We were with the president of AT&T supply chain, who manages 45,000 suppliers and has a budget of $60 billion per annum. And he runs world's best network. Why? Because they absolutely consciously decided that this is the way they're going to build the network in terms of building the processes. No jugaad. Absolutely robust processes. And when we go and talk to the service operator in this country, guys, there are industry standards which are available, which can help you do that. So we are not reinventing the wheel. We're not going back to the drawing board and saying, well, let's go and figure this out. There are industry standards which are specific to telecommunication industry, TL 9000, of which Mr. Arun Malik, he can give you a lot of information about, which are right now available in order to go and fix some of these issues. But the focus, but the intent of really going and doing it, it's just not there. It's just not there. So the whole mindset, first of all, we pride ourselves that, jugaad is the best thing to do. And if you come to our kind of a work environment, which is very, very cut and dry, jugaad is the last thing which we actually go and figure out. And mind you, folks, we work in 2% net income business. So we are not in the telecommunication business of 30% EBITDA or 40% EBITDA. We're in 2% net income business, and that's where we are making the business work, because we laid down the processes, we laid down robust procedures in order to go and do that. And I think that is one big stuff which the Indian telecommunication industry has to learn. However much we have grown, but we haven't really fixed what is the basic stuff as far as our industry is concerned.
Thanks, Sanjay. Dinesh, since you work closely with the operators in terms of that third party, in terms of providing technology inputs, what is your assessment? What is your feedback? How do you think the operators approach the things in terms of priority to the processes, to the how to plug leakages, the issues which have been highlighted by you as well as Sanjay? Means, what is the at what priority do they? Is it top priority? Is it lower down there? How do you see it?
So there is always a lip sync that happens saying that we need to do this, but I don't know whether in the priority level does it even come. See, the problem here is, I'll tell you the classical case. The process leak and the revenue leak, it just throws up a number. I mean, nobody even knows whether those numbers are right? There is no way you can figure out, because a lot of things are actually on the assumptions because of various issues in the internal systems. The challenge that the senior management or the managing team which faces, in the telecom sector faces is, what is the ROI? I mean, when our margins are under pressure, when we are struggling to keep it up, now you are coming and telling me another set of expenditure that I need to make. And it's in a sense, it's a perception business at that point of time, because they can't really figure out it's really going to help or not. The challenge which even I accept is that this cannot be handled by just one telecom operator. It has to run across the complete path, because today your signal is cutting across multiple things. The other issue is also what Rajan was talking about, because you are running a voice network right now with minimum upgradation, and you are trying to push content onto it, right? So it's something which is very normal. If I were in anybody else's place, even I would have said, let's the business run first, then we'll talk about all these things. So, and it's very difficult for them to take a stop at this point of time and then say, now let's put the process in place and then we'll start redoing the business. I think the volume growth has gone so high, it has gone beyond their control at this point of time. It's just not manageable. So I think what can be done is, they probably look into one circle or two circles, or maybe take few process and figure out how this is to be done, and use that same template across all the telecom operators. And I think
Rajan, don't you think, meaning consumers are enjoying the fruits of telecom revolution, meaning there are people whose businesses volumes have grown up, like people like carpenters, plumbers, etc. There are a whole lot of case studies about the fishermen, etc., getting to know when to go, and there are various applications. Many youngsters, if you see music downloads, means everybody is enjoying the telecom basically world, but still, so some complaints are imminent, but like, have we got into the habit of basically complaining also?
Yeah, we're also in the habit of complaining. So it doesn't, this is not to, get defensive about the industry. Clearly, there's lots of things that we can do well. But there's also lots of things that we have done well. And I think what you pointed out is certainly one of them. Our industry is now Harvard Business School case study in terms of how we've been able to do this. So obviously, somebody is learning from us in terms of how we're doing what we're doing at the price points that we do it. So clearly, in any equation, there are some things that, fall off the table. There are choices that we have to make. And yes, we can improve our processes and we can improve our systems. But let me tell you, there are several of our processes that are at, Six Sigma, So, yeah, so there are processes that are working well. I understand what a manufacturing environment is. I worked at AT&T for 12 years. I know that working in a 3-operator environment is very different from working in a 12-operator environment. All right, so those dynamics and, working in a situation when 95% is prepaid with very difficult propositions in terms of identity. In America, everybody has an identity. I can go and catch everybody in, 2 hours I can get your identity. I just need to go on the web. You'll be surprised. All right, go on the web for any American and you'll find that you can get about a 60% dump in terms of that person, where he stays, what his age is, what his demographics are, which company he's worked for, all of this on web, upwards of 20 minutes. So we're in uncharted territory, and so we have to learn, and so we will learn and progress.
Thanks, Rajan. In fact, telecom as usual, as always, is a very interesting subject, and the issues it throws up, especially when panelists of this levels are there to discuss, it can be an endless discussion, an ongoing one, a never-ending one with newer perspectives being thrown in. So obviously, but due to lack of time, we will have to draw a line somewhere. But obviously, the points which have been brought out by all the three are quite relevant, and all of them agree to the point of that, yes, there are leakages, processes have to be built. And of course, as Rajan points out, there are dilemmas, there are difficulties which the operators also face. But thankfully, as far as I think, currently, the kind of the shakeout which is happening in the market and the way the consolidation is bound to happen, and the race for subscribers, now we are 900 million plus, obviously has slowed down a bit. So this gives them, this is the right time when, and a movement towards data, etc. This is the right time when the transition will take place and is bound to take place. We have really run out of time, but we'll just take a few questions if anybody wants. Please identify yourself and please.
The way the banking industry is categorizing the customers based on the type of account, and we get some bonuses and discounts, I just want to wonder whether the cellular industry in India is also grading the customers in terms of platinum or whatever, just, whatever, because it's much easier to get revenue from the existing customer, because I'm looking for changing my service provider now after so much of a gap, waiting what kind of service I'm getting.
To whom is your, whom would you?
Obviously, Mr. Mathew.
Again, I think point well made. I think we can do a better job in taking care of our, high value customers. Clearly the focus is on the corporate customers, what we call the corporate customers, who are the postpaid consumers. That's clearly an area that we focus on. But to your point, yes, we could be doing a better job in terms of differentiating, categorizing, and marketing more, targeted way to those, understanding what it is. And I think there is now a sea change in terms of, you look at Bharti, you look at Voda, you look at Idea, suddenly all the three major are now critically focused on terms of saying what is the consumer experience.
Any more questions if you have, you are free to take it offline. And with this, I would like to really thank Sanjay, Rajan and Dinesh for a very, very enlightening discussion. And of course, as it happens, over telephone and offline it will carry on. Thanks.